all the toxic load and stuff goes to your central vacuum system, which is really your liver. And then you have your air purifiers, which get plugged up. Your air filters are your lungs. And, of course, you have your kidneys, which are your water filters. And kidneys are very important for mineral factors in your body, because in the kidneys everything is dumped out and then basically reabsorbed in terms of how it works.
Dr. Brown, what does the term essential mean? You know how you get essential fatty acids?
Right. When the term is used in nutrients, it means that these are things that you cannot make from within your own system. So you must get these from outside. So when we have essential amino acids, essential fatty acids, and this type of thing, then you must put them into your system through your diet, and you must obtain them from outside sources. So we have essential fatty acids are very important for this energy production, because these are things that we also burn and also are protective. So we have things like phosphatidylcholine, EPA, and DHA, which come from the ocean-based things like fish and plants. We have medium-chain triglycerides, things like wheat germ oil or rice germ, and what we call plant sterols. Those are all types of fatty acid products that are very important to helping you maintain healthy function.
Well, thank you very much. It's important to note that sometimes you do need an outside dietary source if you're a vegetarian also.
Yeah, the vegetarians have to be extra careful to make sure that they're properly combining foods. For instance, we know that to get your essential amino acids and proteins, you need to have a mixture of things like rice, corn, and beans. All three of them together give you a more balanced base of amino acids.
Why the corn?
Well, it's because each one has certain contributions. You have to get all of them together, and you also have to find the proper ratio between nutrients.
Thank you. Very interesting. I am Eva Marienchild with Dr. Tim Brown, and after the break, we will talk more about oxygen utilization. We'll be right back.
More natural therapies with Dr. Tim Brown after these short messages.
Hillcrest Bakery in Delhi presents Old Time Radio on the specialty channel on localwebradio.fm. Hillcrest Bakery in Delhi, serving the Semi-Amu Peninsula for over 40 years with custom cakes, deli platters, and a wide selection of fresh-baked breads. Hillcrest Bakery in Delhi on the corner of Thrift and Johnston, where everything is lovingly made from scratch. Call Hillcrest Bakery in Delhi today at 604-531-1750. That's 604-531-1750. And visit them online at hillcrestbakeryanddelhi.ca.
Buying or selling a home on the Semi-Amu Peninsula? Catch up on local market conditions on This Week in Real Estate with Lance and Connie Marples from Sutton West Coast Realty on localwebradio.fm. To schedule a face-to-face consultation, you can reach Lance and Connie at 604-538-8888. That's 604-538-8888. And visit them online at www.surreywhiterockhomes.com. Shopping for the lowest mortgage rate? Looking to refinance? Catch the Mortgage Newscast with Jared Dreyer on the Business Channel on localwebradio.fm.
All right, we're back with Dr. Tim Brown, and we're talking about some practical things people can do to improve their oxygen utilization. That's interesting about the corn. Lysine, what's missing? Everybody just goes for rice and beans.
I know, but you see, in Mexico, for instance, they had the corn.
Tortilla.
You might have, but to get the mix. If you're vegetarian, you have to pay a lot more attention to these kind of relationships. With animal proteins, it's higher in the food chain, so there's more things that we can derive. But on the secondary side of it, we can also derive more toxic load that builds up as it moves up the food chain.
Right. What about that GMO corn malaise, this issue that everyone's talking about? How much does that bring down a few rungs, what you just recommended?
Well, in the next session, there's a whole introduction there about how to fix things, proper parts. And when we start using man-made parts, which were not designed for the body, and we start putting those in, all we can say is medicine is probably the only profession that tries to do that and get away with it. I'll sort of leave that to the next talk.
Next show.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. How can we measure oxygen utilization?
Okay. Mostly it's something that's not measured directly, and it's actually been overlooked. So the most common way people have this measured indirectly is through lab tests, which are looking at factors that play a role in oxygen utilization, such as hormone functions, thyroid, adrenal. Sometimes they're looking for nutrient deficiencies through lab tests and things. And once in a while, toxic overload can be looked for. But you have to know what has to run, and the doctors and most people aren't really measuring oxygen utilization and really looking for it. The second way is a functional kind of testing that can challenge how the body is utilizing these things, and we can do that with autonomic response tests, such as applied kinesiology or applied physiology. And in this way, we challenge various pathways to identify unbalanced responses. So, for example, if we do muscle testing and the muscle initially is strong and we challenge it 5 or 10 or 15 reps and it weakens, and we do this throughout the different areas of the body and we get this weakening, we can pretty much tell that the person is having a problem with some of their mitochondrial function, usually fat metabolism. And usually when that occurs, they're eating too much carbohydrate or they're not getting enough fat so that the little pumps, the mitochondria, are able to keep going. And what we do is we test them, we find the right form of a fatty acid, and we get them to change their diet a little bit, and quite often that will kick the mitochondria back into proper function.
Good. And you can do all this with your staff in your office?
Yes, and of course there's much more sophisticated ways that we can test this. We can challenge for heavy metal toxicity, for imbalance of nutrients, and we can find when there's viral loads and things and or waste products from the viruses left in the system that are creating an interference. So these are the interference factors that I talk about, which are toxicity, too much of something in the system, deficiency, there's not enough of a particular nutrient or balance of nutrients. Structural things can interfere so that you can have an injury that's creating an interference for the proper functioning of your joints, muscles, and nervous system. And then the other thing is you can have conflicts and programming errors, which are sort of the mental, emotional components of interference.
That is so important. That's energy right there. So in your office, you do provide the use of ozone and hyperbaric oxygen treatments.
We don't have hyperbaric in. I'm looking into that because I found some newer forms that are more practical than having a huge setup. And with hyperbaric, there's issues with flammability from the oxygen and stuff. But I found some interesting ways they're getting hyperbaric now, so people can actually do some of these things in their own homes.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm
wonderful.
doing some research on that. Now, there's one other area of testing that's very significant, and that's more direct testing of oxygen utilization. And it's a physiology testing that I came across with Dr. Schallenberger down in Reno, who teaches about ozone. Has a unique way he set up a lab. You actually measure oxygen and carbohydrate utilization, and you can tell whether a person's burning fat or carbohydrate, and when they're going into lactic acid function, which is when you can't keep up with enough oxygen. And I'm looking at this and considering putting this into my office because it's the most direct way that we can actually measure your biological age.
Wow, that would be awesome if you can do that. That's wonderful you're looking into that.
Yes, and the key to this is we're looking for the parts we can reverse. I want to catch people when they're in dysfunction and turn them back into healthy functioning people. And my office is not focused so much on, when people are on their last legs, with deep cancers and things. What we're trying to do is make changes early on where they can be made and get the level of consciousness and energy production up to higher levels, because when we talked about consciousness and brain function, the brain is dependent on having oxygen and oxygen utilization and being able to have energy. That raises our consciousness up when we have the energy. When we're at a low level, the brain starts shutting down and going into safe mode or hibernation or reptilian functions, which are all just survival.
Absolutely. You're underscoring what was said eons ago, that we've got to learn to heal ourselves to make sure we stay out of doctors' offices. We have to teach the patient how to not get sick.
Yes. And the reality is the doctor's offices are mostly looking for pathologies, which are when you're in significant breakdown of cell function and structure. But what doctors' offices should be more focused on, and what most everybody coming in is actually in a dysfunction, meaning they're having more difficulty with their functioning. It hurt when I do this, or I used to be able to do X, but now I can't do it, or, can you help back?
Yeah, so that's when you know you're on fire. That's the red flag. But by then, your body's been saying, I've been trying to tell you all along.
Yeah, the body has backup systems. And my mentor used to say it's like a biological computer or a rocket ship, which always has backup systems for things. And it's often not until these backup systems are failing, your second or third level, that people actually are then paying attention and seeking help.
Absolutely. God gave us wonderful bodies and does what it needs to do if we just give it a little bit of help. What are some practical things people can do to improve their oxygen utilization?
Well, the first thing was diet, which we talked about, which is lower your carbohydrate intake, eat less carbohydrates and more of the complex. You need to have lean proteins and increase the amount and variety of the vegetables based on colors and consistency. And you've got to get the essential fatty acids, things like olive oil, coconut oil, and the fish oils into your diet. And along with that, most people are, understand that they need to get clean, good water into their system. So we also found that diet alone isn't enough, because the quality of where things are grown and how they're grown makes a difference. And we need to supplement the diet with high-quality vitamins, some minerals, and concentrated vegetable-based supplements. The next thing is exercise. It's really important that we get exercise, especially after 30 years of age or so. It's even more important, but we need aerobic activity in moderation. We want to stimulate the system, but we don't want to burn it out. Burn it out means we do way too much and we don't supply enough rest and repair factors into the system, because it's all about balance.
All right.
And along that line, the next thing would be relaxation. The relaxation response of things like yoga, tai chi, meditation, or just focused breathing and quiet time is important for the system to reset. And then there's things that increase our ability to open up the circulation and get oxygen. And those are things like infrared sauna, which helps to detoxify and opens up. That's why people like to go to warm places where there's sort of a drier heat. And then there's ozone. ozone is a whole topic in itself, and the health benefits of ozone and its use to treat infections and that sort of thing. And then there's, of course, the higher end stuff, which is like hyperbaric oxygen, which is getting oxygen under pressure so that the tissues can saturate.
Yeah.
So those things